if you're feeling stuck sending your CV into a black hole, trust me, I totally get it. And before we dive into it, if you're looking for no fluff advice in terms of how you can improve your career, then make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel or follow the podcast for more sessions based on these topics. If you don't know who I am already, my name is Michael Tabirade, and I help talented professionals navigate the world around them in order for them to build flourishing portfolio careers. Now, for those of you who've been applying for roles, you've done the whole CV thing where you've got the master CV, then you've got multiple different types of CVs for different jobs, you've done the cover letters, you've hit submit, and yet cricket, silence, nothing happens. In addition to that, even worse potentially, you get rejection emails with no explanation whatsoever. Now, if you're screaming down a deep black hole that is never ending, then I fully get it, I fully understand. So today we're gonna be diving into why humanity is our last hope and what I mean by that, and actually what you can do about that fact. Of course, now I talk about the whole CV element side of things, it is important to make sure you have a good, strong ATS friendly CV. So if this is something that you're interested in, then make sure you click on the link below to essentially adopt the CV template that I use when sending out to recruiters. So why does it feel difficult right now? Well, in some ways you could argue the system's a little bit rigged because a lot of organizations and end clients are relying on an applicant tracking system, so ATS, in order to filter out 90% of applications. And so with that in mind, 90% of you who are applying have no chance in hell. Now with these ATS systems, they're not hiring managers, they're algorithms, they're bots. And of course, with the rise of AI, they're becoming even more sophisticated to ensure that anything that doesn't necessarily align to the job brief, the job description, or the culture or ethos of the organization wanting someone, they're going to be kicked out, they're going to be filtered out straight away. But here's the real kicker, here's the real secret. According to LinkedIn, up to 80% of jobs are not advertised. Not sure how they found out that information, but if true, is insane. I remember seeing a stat before that stated that 67% of people got roles through somebody, a form of nepotism, so to speak, or through connection. So when thinking about this, these individuals are getting the roles through referrals or someone saying, hey, I know somebody who'd be great for the role. And so thinking about it from that logic, for the person who is applying for roles, you are fighting for the 20% of roles that exist out there based on job boards relative to the 80% that is through networking, connection, nepotism, all this different kind of stuff there. How can you win? Not saying it's impossible, but it makes it even more competitive. Obviously, the challenge with this is that if you're only applying for the 20% based on the traditional route, you're going to feel lethargic. You're going to be emotionally drained. You're going to be frustrated at the fact that after your 10th interview, you still haven't been able to get the job, not even get interviews, to be fair. You're just getting rejections and or silence. Now, of course, before I've mentioned this many times before in relation to the CIPD, but they've noted that there is a strong link between our mental health and our emotional well-being and our lack of success when it comes to finding a new job, whether you are in a job or unemployed. And so as this continues to happen, as this continues to go on, you may start to lose confidence in yourself. You may become a bit apathetic or nihilistic by nature. You may just feel actually that I can't be bothered. And so all of this reduces motivation and reduces the drive to take some real consolidated action, even though you have been for the last couple of days, weeks, or even months. As exhausting as this is, what if we thought to ourselves, actually, why are we trying to fight against a system? What is outside of that system? Human beings are the thing that sit outside of the system, and it becomes less about applying for jobs and more about building connections, because then you can see there are real opportunities that way. Now, the word networking feels a little bit cringe. I've never really liked the term, although people would say, oh, you're a great networker. However, for me, it's always been about deep connection. And connection in this instance is less about asking for a job and more so asking about a job, talking about the industries, wanting to learn more. Now, the World Economic's Future of Jobs report actually highlights that some of the in-demand skills include active listening and empathy and curiosity building. And actually, you finding your job is a perfect way of showing those skills to the hiring managers and or recruiters that you speak to. Now, how do we do all of this stuff? How do we build the right type of connection? Now, I'm going to break this down using a 3-part framework known as the 3 C's of connection: curate, converse, and community. The first thing you need to do is to curate the space. And so really and truly, this is about making sure that you are surrounded by people or in the environments with people who you admire or at least seek to be working with in some way, shape or form. So let's say, for example, this was digital as an example. What you could do is connect with this person. And if they have content, be somebody who comments on their content. Don't start off with commenting straight away. Maybe like it. Show that you like it regularly. Add it as a notification. If a genuine thought comes to mind, then you comment on it, okay, to show that actually there is genuine interest here, because there is. You're interested in the world. As you comment, at some point it feels necessary to open a conversation with them via DMs and say, hey Charles, really love the content that you're providing in relation to X. How are things going? You ask them how they're going. Maybe you want to follow up on some content and the thoughts that they have on that content. You go back and forth, you'll get a feel for their energy. And then you may say, the original reason why I connected with you is because I love your career and professional background, and I wanted to know if you were open to having a 15 to 30-minute conversation to learn more about what you do. So with that in mind, they will say yay or nay. And so there is an opportunity to follow up there where you can have a conversation, which is part 2 of that. But that's from a digital standpoint. Of course, if they don't have content, then you could still reach out to them and DM them and have that conversation, but less about the content. If it's not from a digital standpoint, then you want to go to events where these people are likely going to be placed. A bit harder to do because you have to physically go there. It may cost money, may have to present yourself a certain way, but this is where you introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Michael Tabirade. I'm a program management consultant, primarily working within the public sector, focusing on digital transformation and enhancing the operations within a team or business. Then they will say what they do, and you ask more questions. You show interest, you show intrigue, etc., etc. And either there and then, you seal the deal in terms of highlighting that you are looking for more opportunities, or you have a follow-up meeting in a session, either face-to-face in a public space like a Costa, or you essentially have a Zoom, Google Meet meeting. Now, some people may say you don't do a Costa, maybe you buy them lunch or dinner, whatever it may be. Whatever makes sense for your industry, doesn't really matter. It just needs to make sense and it needs to feel comfortable. So whether you transfer it to a digital thing, buy them lunch or dinner, or seal the deal there and then, it all depends on circumstance. But the point being made is make a connection based on the vibe, on what's working. So of course, you've asked for this additional 15 minutes to have a conversation. And so really, you are being interviewed there and then. That is your interview. But before you get to this stage, you would have done a bit of research. So for example, if you found them digitally, you know what type of content they're posting. You've checked out their profile. You know what they do. You've looked at the industry, you've checked out the website, you understood a little bit about their projects and or what they're managing or governing. And so you should have had a bit of a framework of what they do. And so you're going to study a little bit. It may be done by osmosis and or through rote learning, so to speak. And so that conversation is really an interview. I remember doing this myself one time. There was a role that I really liked, and actually what I did was I asked for a 15-minute conversation with the person to just really get them to see who I was, really allow my energy to shine, and asked 1, 2, 3 different questions. Now, I was way more ill-prepared back then. I didn't have like a whole list of questions to ask, etc., etc. But it was enough for me to get the job because went through the application process, did extremely well, and I received the job. And so you have to think to yourself, what questions do I want to ask? And what may they ask me? How can I make sure things are bulletproof? And so again, a bit of your studying in the converse part is ensuring that you are aligned to what you're looking for as well. This is why I talk about the whole path thing. Know what problems you've solved, what actions you've taken, aligned to a methodology that I recognize, what results you have produced. Simple. Now, of course, just because you've had that session with them for 15 minutes, it doesn't necessarily end there, because you want to expand your community. And so the ultimate question you want to ask is, thank you very much for having this session with me. I really do appreciate it. I was wondering, is there anybody within your network who you think is worth me speaking to? And actually you could afford an introduction with, and actually you can create an introduction for me. This is how you continue to create new networks and new opportunities, because there is a domino effect. There is a referral effect in some way, shape or form. So again, this is all about connection. This is all about doing things a bit more organically and not trying to force it. With the CV thing, there's a lot of pressure. I get it. There's a lot of pressure. However, reduce the pressure a little bit and actually lean into the 80% of opportunities that exist out there based on speaking to recruiters and hiring managers or engagement leads, so to speak. So once you understand this, and assuming you get the roles that you're looking for, in the next video, the one next week at least anyway, I'm going to be talking about 5 core skills that you need in order for you to future-proof your career. If you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, independent consulting, and contracting, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.